Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, everyone's favorite internet mercenary, and now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community, and let's go ahead and murk some people in this video. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. You know, I was looking through a little bit of some of my old videos last night, kind of seeing what's going on in the world, and I saw the dates on my first WFN stuff. Been 1.5 years. That was the biggest, well, second biggest. I don't know, man. The passing of Rich Piana, that was probably tied. I don't know. That was definitely up there with this whole WFN fiasco. You know, the enormous multi-million-dollar drug bust involving multiple YouTubers and everything else. You know, what's interesting is how people choose to remember stuff versus what they forget. You know, I mean, it's interesting that there's little bitty things that various YouTubers have done, myself, other people, hell, even some of these people, that is remembered by everyone from years and years ago, something really minor. I mean, it could be literally something as simple as using the incorrect word in describing something still appears in memes and stuff from a YouTuber, right? But when they're involved in an enormous scandal like this, a year and a half later, it seems like people almost forget about it. But this was one of the tied for the biggest YouTube fitness story in 2017. And what's interesting is that you have three different guys who were big YouTubers who were directly, and two of them admittedly, with plenty of evidence present, like in their own videos, financially involved with a massive illegal drug ring, right? And receiving products. I admitted they received products. Yet the guy who supposedly headed it sitting in prison right now, has done a few interviews from prison, and all three of these guys are walking around scot-free, no charges, no parole, no probation, nothing. And that's interesting, and I think what we need to look at is that, you know, the guy Richard Rodriguez had released at least 3 YouTubers, all the reports, the tracking numbers, their orders, for all the stuff he sent them, even sending them money and stuff for sponsorships, right, to pimp his company. Now, 2 of them publicly pimped the company. 2 of them admitted to receiving products. That was Rashid and Lobliner. One of the bases of operations was being run out of a facility that Rashid is part owner of. You know, so I mean, Mike Rashid is one of those guys who clearly knew about it. He advertised for it in videos, in his own voice. Received products, received money from it, and the base of operations was run out of a building that he was part owner of, one of his businesses, while he was publicly endorsing the company. The company doing the illegal stuff, publicly doing the illegal stuff, right? Yet he walked away scot-free. Now, he hasn't denied that the orders are true. Then you got Lobliner, received products as an endorsement, you know, for endorsing the company. He did endorse the company, got up and endorsed it publicly in one of his own videos that he later pulled. All of us have copies of it, right? He publicly endorsed this illegal operation that he knew was illegal. And he more or less said in his own video, I don't see how this is legal, because he knows the laws. But I guess it is, right? But he knew. Received products that he knew he couldn't legally possess. Received them in the mail, but then later claimed, well, yeah, I did receive those. First he denied it. Then he said, I received them, but I didn't use them. They weren't. I didn't think they were that good, so I chose not to use them. But admitted that he had the stuff shipped, admitted he received it, and endorsed the company. And that was his payment for publicly endorsing the company, right? He was paid in substances. Yet he's free. Now, the same set of tracking numbers and names was also thrown at Cali Muscle, who hasn't really admitted to it, but the guy who sent Rashid and Lobliner, who we know admitted to it, the same set of packages, right? Same set of tracking numbers. It all turned out to be legit. So why would the guy sitting in prison now make up the one about Cali Muscle? He also claimed that he sent Cali Muscle tons of money to endorse it, but he didn't follow through on his end, so he cut him off because he wasn't publicly endorsing it, even though he had been paid to do so. Now that's the interesting thing. And the question you got to ask is, this guy's sitting in prison, but all 3 of these guys have provable ties. You know, Cali's somewhat provable, not necessarily enough that we could say for certain. But it's interesting. So, you know, maybe his involvement isn't certain, right? That's alleged. But Mike Rashid and Marc Lobliner, they publicly, and we all have the video evidence, right, on their websites. We all saw it in real time, and a lot of us kept copies even if they pulled it down, admitting their direct financial involvement. And they're endorsing the company and them receiving products. Like, we have pretty good proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's enough proof that if the feds were to press charges and arrest them, they could probably get them to trial, right? Yet here these guys sit walking free. You got to wonder what happened. Now, everyone has their own views. All of us out here have our own views on what the laws should be, what we think is right and wrong. We all have views on what we think should happen regarding, legality of anabolics. We have different opinions. Some people have different opinions on the police. Some people have different opinions on whether snitching is right or wrong, right? We all come from different backgrounds, and we all have our viewpoints. So, judge this how you will. Judge it from your own perspective, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. You have to decide for yourself what you think is right and wrong, what you think is just, what you think isn't. But it's interesting that these guys all were involved in a massive federal crime with direct provable involvement. They all walk free, and the guy sitting in prison says that 2 of them are snitches. It means Rashid and Lobliner is what he called them, snitches. Basically, he alleged that they ratted on him, and that they did that so that they could avoid getting charges and jail time. That's the guy sitting in prison said that. Now, we know they had involvement. That does make sense. A reasonable person might listen to that and conclude maybe that's true. Now, a lot of people say, well, a guy sitting in jail say anything. Really? He's not getting his jail sentence reduced by saying that. And he's saying these guys snitched on me. They were business partners of mine. They snitched on me. Yet here they are, walking free, still selling supplements, making YouTube videos, making all kinds of money. Right here in the public eye. Nobody in the public is really judging them. They've continued to grow their outreach. They're still making money. That's interesting. But what I will say, if that's true, then we've got allegations right there that both of these guys will turn on their business partners. You got to wonder, man, in the future, anyone out there, if they would really be willing to do any business with these 2 guys. When you really think about it, anybody really want to do business with people who jump up and publicly get involved in a massive illegal operation, and then when it gets busted, they don't go to jail, and the people in jail claim they snitched on them? That really the sort of people you want to do business with? Now, people who are law-abiding citizens don't want anything to do with that. Be like, well, yeah, I don't want anything to do with them because they've been involved in a massive operation like that. But then other people who might be worried about shady stuff on the other end still might not want to do business with these guys. Why? Because they're snitches. That's a bad situation to be in. I'm surprised anybody is willing to do business with either one of these clowns after this. But it's interesting how this goes down. It seems like everyone forgot about all this. They'll remember the little silly stuff on the internet, but when you have something of this enormity happen, it's a 1.5 years later, and anybody even talking about it? They really aren't, are they? This was an enormous story. And it seems like even people who follow these people and they're fans of them, they've forgotten all about it. They've forgotten completely about this enormous scandal. But it was all out there in public. All out there in public. How quickly people forget the important stuff, and how often they remember the silliest little stupid things sometimes. I guess that's the internet for you. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.